Hello and welcome to the European Resilience Initiative Center video podcast. Today our guest is Vladislav Greziev. He is the CEO of LobbyX, a Ukrainian online recruiting platform which helps Ukrainian civil professionals to find a military job which really suits them. Welcome, Vladislav.
Hi, Sergey. Nice to meet you.
So tell me, please, how did you come to idea to recruit people for the Ukrainian army?
Okay. Well, actually, our platform, we provide recruiting assistance for government bodies, for NGOs, for independent media and businesses for 7 years already. And we provide most of our services to the government and NGOs free. And in this way, we help to build more prosperous country, state, to change different spheres, to reform different spheres by providing good professionals. And after the full-scale invasion, I joined the armed forces, and my team, LobbyX, they started to receive different requests from our previous employees and employers, and they who also joined armed forces. They asked us to find some professionals for different positions. First of all, it was some IT professionals, then some communication specialists. And during the first months, I was involved deeply into the, more military stuff, And after the first months, when we saw that we stand these first attacks and the war goes for much more longer, and we decided to provide this help with recruiting for armed forces wider, because lots of requests from the different units was about to find the exact professionals. In the previous summer, it was 2022, in July, we announced that we starting this campaign, and lots of different new units addressed us with requests for different positions, starting with frontline vacancies, ending with some back staff.
That is exactly what I saw when I was scrolling through your web page. There are a lot of jobs, a lot of vacancies needed to be filled, and most of these vacancies they could be used like also by civilian companies like IT experts, drivers, like people who know things which you need like at any logistics center or at any company. And that is not what you think about the army as a civilian. When you think like the army people, they only fight, they only like run around with their guns, which is of course a very naive perception of the army. But in Ukraine, after the full-scale invasion of Russia, the need to fill this position in the army increased, and that is where you filled the gap. Is it right?
Yes, because the amount of people in the army raised very high. It's more than 1 million people, and a lot of new units were created. And of course, not only fighters needs the army. It's only about 30% of positions of vacancies in armed forces dedicated to fighting, and all other positions, they works on different other directions, logistics, some documentations, IT, communications, and so on. So because of that, because of the huge amount of new units appeared, of course, army needed lots of staff to supply all the needs.
And before we go further into details of how Vladislav Greziev and his company LobbyX fill the gap which need to be filled for the Ukrainian army, personal gap with IT experts, with other specialists, don't forget to subscribe, to share, to like this channel, and if you have your questions or your ideas, then share them under this video as a comment. So Vladislav, tell me, what we know about the Ukrainian army, it increased like massively the amount of soldiers, and the whole new units, new brigades have been created out of nowhere. Of course, all these personnel needed to be found. How did it work? Like it wasn't the mobilization at the beginning. It was like volunteers who came to the army, and then your company came. Like, what were the problems? What were the challenges?
Well, yeah, of course, a lot of volunteers came to the army, and still we also provide service for volunteers. It's only on their will to decide to join the army. They apply for the position as it's in civil life. So the difference is that we show and offer the exact position in the exact unit. This is how we differ from the general approach of army, because previously, if you decided to join the armed forces, of course you could choose the exact unit and come to the ground and sign the contract. But in the general mobilization is the process when you are not supposed to have a chance to choose. The military commanders, they decided whether you will go and who you will be inside the army. So, of course, people wanted to control their future. They want to understand what risks they will get. They want to understand who will command them, whether these commanders will be professional, and they of course want to trust them. So because of that,
if I may interrupt you here, is it something like some brigades or some units have a better image and everyone says, oh, I want to go to the 47th brigade, or I want to go like to Холодный Yar brigade. I don't want to go like to any other unit because I've seen so many video stuff of how they're fighting. Is it like something like a competition between the brigades?
Yeah, it's most looks like an open market. Of course, different brigades have their own media sources, and they of course publish videos from the battles, and they explain how they works, what they have, who are the commanders of these units. They show, uncover a lot of different inside details. They show the culture, they show the values, and people choose. They look on one video, look on another video, they read in the internet, they ask their friends who already in the armed forces, because the war touched almost everybody in the country. Everybody who are still civilian have some friends or relatives who are inside the armed forces. They could ask some advices what the unit is better or not. And of course, we have different units. For example, we have like mechanized units, or we have artillery. Some people want to serve in medical forces and so on. This is a huge difference. That's why our approach was in some way innovative and helped a lot of people to make this first step, because they control their future in this way, to understand who they will be and where they will be in the army.
Wow, that is interesting. That is absolutely different situation to what one can expect in a fighting nation, in war. And of course, like if you go in Germany to the Bundeswehr, to the army, then your first question is, okay, what will be my salary? How much vacation days I will have? Like maybe like if I will serve in a unit close to my home or far from my home. But in Ukraine, the questions are quite different. Like, what will be my commander? Do I know him personally? Is he a person who has a good image, etc.? It's absolutely different, of course. What professional skills does the Ukrainian army need? A lot of new jobs emerged during the last years. Can they all be filled by military educated persons, or does the Ukrainian army need an intense amount of civilians who have these skills to fill the jobs?
Previously, I wanted to comment that Bundeswehr is now not in war. but of course, this is different much more when you have peacetime and wartime. And of course, you care about different things, because here in Ukraine we are fighting for our survival, and it's not about salaries or some kind of vacation and vacation days. About the skills, it's as you saw in our website, on each the direction of the professional spheres, we need people, because army growth to the very huge scale, and lots of professional military soldiers, they spread among different units, and of course we need new civilians who will be taught, who will be educated well in the military sphere, to become commanders, to become officers, to understand the philosophy of war, to understand the philosophy of armed forces. This is the whole new science, and if we are talking about some commanding positions, of course we need civilians to be prepared for that. And even if you're just a soldier on the front line, of course you also need to be prepared, and Ukraine have a lot of training centers for civilians. When you came to army, you go for 1 to 3 months preparation, education, trainings before you will go to the unit and obtain your position. And of course, we got help from our Western partners and allies. A lot of our soldiers took these trainings abroad. The level and the quality is different, and I think this direction, education direction, is one of the most important, because we need to, after the legacy of Soviet Union or the legacy of Soviet Army, we have the very similar approaches with the Russian army, but Russian army is much more bigger and they have much more resources. And to win the war, we need to modernize our army, not only in the way of weapons or supply chains, but also in the way of our human capital. And the one core component of that is education and trainings.
That is exactly what I wanted to ask you as my next question. Of course, you observe the situation on the global scale, and you see what the Russians are doing. Like, the Russians mobilize a lot of people. They have like mobilization wave of 100,000 people who they like take from everywhere. But do they have something similar to your approach? Do they try to targetedly address high-skilled professionals like IT experts, other people, to inspire them to join the Russian army?
I know that they work with propaganda a lot, and of course they have much more deep systems and militarized society. They worked in this way for like years, and they invest in this for years. They use their state-owned media to create the image of Ukraine in the way that people wanted to hate us and to eliminate all the Ukrainians. So this is the very complex approach, and in this way, I don't think they need to create some kind of our approach, what we provide in LobbyX, because we build the systems and projects in the democratic society and in the democratic state, and people decided on their own will, and they have and they have access to information. They could understand everything that was going on, and they decide by their own what they wanted to do. And we do not have this way of propaganda for years, and everybody could clearly understand what's going on. So that's why I don't see any similar approaches in Russian Federation. I see that they that got their goals on mobilization in other way. And it's very sad because we see that most of the nation, of the society, are ready to be somehow involved in the war. They support this war and also join the armed forces. And this is not the war where they defend themselves and their land. And this is embarrassing for me, how it could be in 2023 that people do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. That is a situation which only few people could imagine in the modern world, full-scale war of aggression and genocide. But coming back to Ukraine, we have heard many times that the Ukrainian army needs a lot of personnel. Like many units which fight on the front line, they are tired. Soldiers who volunteered in the early months of 22 of the full-scale invasion, they have served already 1.5 years. Some of them say we are tired, we're exhausted, we need to be replaced by the new ones. But there is no way in Ukraine to make like such full-scale forced mobilization like in Russia. How can this dilemma be solved? Is it only a way like to inspire people through web pages or through recruiting platforms like your one, or is there any other solution?
I think it's possible, and no, it's not only could be reached by only tools such as we provide. I think now, after the campaign of 2023, our political and military power, our chiefs and commanders, they now will review all of the plans and all of the goals we got at the moment and what we need in the future, our position in the international relations and so on. And if we are talking about the previous period from the 24th of February, mostly our successes was on the heroism of people, on the approaches that we provided for serving, and on the mass of volunteers and people who indifferent and pay the highest price for our freedom. Of course, with help of our allies who provided us with weapons and so on. But in the end, it was like, the most similar to the sprint, but we run the marathon. And in the marathon, we need to every time to modernize ourselves, to change the system, to improve that, to enhance. And I think this is the time after the campaign of 2023 to review everything, to be united, to make the decisions that will be not very easy to provide, but it's needed. And now I see that it's a new team in the Ministry of Defense, and I see that they really showed another approach to the policy making in the military sphere. I see that general staff also open to review their approaches, and I hope together combining all of the efforts with political power representatives, with president and his office, cabinet of ministers and our parliament, it will be changes that will help us to modernize the system of Ukrainian army, and we will have new quality level, and this will be our advantage.
What kind of new approach? What kind of new approach can it be?
I could generally say that, I think this is three different, three different sources for army are very important. The weapons, the supply, and of course personnel, and the system around the human capital. And As for the weapons, we have some modernization with help of our allies. As for supply, the same, and we have a lot of volunteer foundations in Ukraine. We have huge movement on volunteers who help with provision. And the very last thing is the system built the person around the personal, around the human capital. This is what now I see that we need to modernize, to improve, and I see that we started to do that. And the one of the main and very important points in this way is, as we mentioned previously, education and trainings, because army is very specific organization, and the very important thing is not about the numbers, the amount of personnel, but about the strategy and tactical leadership. And we need to prepare a lot of new commanders because army growth, and of course we see that we need to also grow in the quality level of these commanders, that who could plan, who could tactically and strategically see how to reach the operation goals and save people's life.
Wow, that is impressive. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe to this video channel, and we go further into the question of how the Ukrainian army can fill the gaps and recruit more high-skilled professionals to win this war against Russia. You have told already that Ukrainian army needs sort of new commanding officers. Before, like in the last years, the traditional way to an officer position was like several years in the military, high school, and then a person like got his lieutenant grade. Is it the same situation now, or are there like some fast tracks for effective sergeants, or like even civilians to join the army on commanding positions of sergeants or even officers?
Yeah, it's possible. People have previously, they could have previously preparations to become commanders and officers or sergeants, but of course inside the army it's much more. You could have this experience on practice after you join the armed forces. Being inside the organization, you will be much more prepared for such positions. And of course, we need to provide new programs of education. I know that we recently developed one once, and them provided. But of course, it's not about to cover all of the needs. We need to build a high and high system. And previously, you asked me about the strategy of how to involve new civilians to the army, whether it's only about tools like we provide. So I think the motivation will be higher if people will see that also lots of new internal modernization comes when they see that the system improve itself. People will have more motivation to join by their own will. Of course, when they will see that army become more professional, commanders become more professional, and they trust them and they see them, and people understood that their lives will be cared as much as it's possible. Of course, they will have more motivation to join the armed forces, and then we come with our approach, with our website, with a lot of different approaches, campaigns, and so on.
Can foreign citizens join the Ukrainian army using your platform?
Not for every unit, because not every unit are ready to have foreign fighters, but we have International Legion and even at least 4 different International Legion units. They have their own website with all of the instructions how to join the armed forces of Ukraine, and they support all of the applicants and provide help with all of the documents and so on, so everybody could join. I know that we work with International Legion, and I know that this unit is very effective and very successful on the front line, so it's possible.
Wow, that's impressive. Thank you so much. It was Vladislav Greziev. He's a CEO of LobbyX, a Ukrainian online recruiting platform which helps Ukrainian civilian professionals and, as we have just heard, foreigners to find a way to the Ukrainian army and to find a military job that really suits their skills and the needs of Ukraine. Thank you, Vladislav. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you for inviting.
Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to support Ukraine and stay tuned.